As we head back to school and back to work, many Americans are concerned with the increase in COVID variants. For the latest on the Delta and Mu variants, as well as what President Biden's vaccine mandate means for us all, let's bring in Dr. Marty Makary, a Fox News contributor. Welcome, Doctor.
Good to be with you.
What about these variants? The latest figures suggest 98.9% of current cases are the Delta variant, with 0.1% the Mu variant. Your thoughts, Doctor?
Well, we've had about 2,000 variants of COVID to date, and it's still really the same virus. Now, the new variants have a tough time competing with the Delta variant because the variant that's most contagious is the one that dominates. So these Mu and Delta variants are less contagious, and therefore they're being outperformed by Delta.
Interesting. Okay, you've been someone who's favored counting natural immunity in terms of people who are protected from the virus. What's the news today from a major hospital in Detroit?
So Spectrum Health has announced that they are going to count natural immunity, that is, having previous COVID infection and having recovered, as a form of immunity, and that will waive your vaccine requirement. This is a major step forward, and we're seeing more and more in the scientific community recognize now the newest data, which is mounting. And that study out of Israel with 700,000 people found that natural immunity was 27 times more effective in preventing symptomatic COVID than vaccinated immunity. We've also had natural immunity a lot longer. And to be honest, Mike, you know, it's done a lot of damage having this natural immunity as unreliable hypothesis. We could have rationed our vaccine smarter instead of giving it to those who were already immune when we were supply constrained. And the public health community has lost a lot of credibility ignoring natural immunity.
Interesting. Okay, so there's been a push, obviously, to get children 12 and older vaccinated. There's a report out saying the Pfizer vaccine may be available to children 5 to 11 years old starting in October. What's the science?
Well, we're going to see Pfizer report the results later this month, possibly early October, and we'll see what they show. You know, Pfizer recognized, in my opinion, that the dose was probably too high for adolescents. It never made sense to me to give an adult dose at an adult frequency to kids, to a thin 12-year-old girl, that she shouldn't be getting the same dose as a heavy 50-year-old man. And we're seeing the heart inflammation complications really clustered around the second dose. And that's why I encourage parents to consider one dose for kids if they have not already had COVID in the past. And a study out of Israel found that one dose was 100% effective in kids 12 through 15. We'll see what the data shows in kids 5 through 12. But COVID may burn through the population by the time we get the authorization.
The Los Angeles School District is really trying to force the issue on vaccinating children. Is that a smart approach?
No, there's going to be unintended harm there, Mike, because 1 in 6,800 boys, about 1 in 7,000 boys approximately, will develop a heart complication after the second dose. And if we're immunizing people already immune, and remember, roughly 25 to 50% of school-age children already had COVID, most asymptomatic, we could be creating some harm. I recommend one dose for those kids who have not had COVID in the past. Mandating 2 doses in a blanket way will have unintended harm, in my opinion.
Doc, I've talked to a lot of folks who worry about their young children wearing masks all day long in school. Is there any science on the potential problems with that?
We don't have good studies because this is a new area, but there is concern among psychologists, among speech pathologists, among people who are around the kids a lot, and certainly kids with disabilities really struggle. And that's why I believe it's an individual choice. We've assumed that masks have no downsides whatsoever with kids, but some kids really struggle. Other kids do well with it. My concern also is some areas of the country have very low rates of infection or soon will in a matter of weeks or months, and we should always have exit criteria if a local school district wants to mask their kid. Final point, cloth masks are almost ineffective in the cluster randomized controlled trial that was just published 2 weeks ago. The surgical mask is the one that reduces transmission, and it does so by a factor of about 11%, so not a huge effect compared to other things like ventilation, distancing, potting, and adult vaccination.
When I'm out and about visiting with family and friends, the question I get a lot is this ever going to end? We got vaccinated, a lot of us, and we're still wearing the masks. So, Doc, is this ever going to end?
I think people have had this false perception that we're going to eradicate COVID, and we've got to learn to live with it. Downgrading COVID from a severe illness to a mild or asymptomatic infection has always been the goal, and I think we should not be afraid of breakthrough infections that are mild.
Dr. Marty Makary, thank you so much for your time. Have an awesome day.
Thanks, Mike.